Hello world, got another Truth Bar Journal episode for you. I am Niji Coach, and with me I have Nijai Maya, and we'll be looking at some more authors. This is our second episode this week, so we're getting a lot of good action there. Alrighty, pulling up the document. And you see it?
Yep.
Alrighty, let's get started. Oh, and I don't have a lot of the ones that you put in so far, this last thing, because I was getting their pictures together, but I will have them for next time.
Okay.
So first up, Nijai Mary Morris, author of The Waiting Room. You know her at all, or?
No, I don't think I've heard of her.
How do you usually find out authors that you like? Is it usually like friends, bookstores, online, or do you like?
There's a website called Goodreads, and it was the guy who founded it. We read him as Niji. But the site is, you enter books that you either want to read or have read, and you can classify them by genre and stuff. And then it gives you recommendations for similar books or books that other people who have read that book have also liked. So
Nice.
I spent some time browsing that site. Yeah.
Aha, excellent. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
This one's you to do?
Right. Sina Jeter Naslund, author, Ahab's wife.
Sinai Edna O'Brien. What's she known for? Edna.
Name rings a bell.
Irish novelist.
Okay.
Looks like she does some period pieces, like period fiction.
Hmm.
Let's put it in there. Empty barrels. Stuff. Actually, in the next hour to sleep, I needed it today. Alrighty, this one's you.
Maggie O'Farrell, author.
Ironically, on the right here, she actually risked me off of an MMA fighter.
Oh, okay.
Joanne Calderwood, who actually is a very sensitive for fighters. She's very tough, but she's very sensitive. Take a look at her real quick, see if you see what I'm talking about. Person?
I just see the document.
Okay, never mind. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of funny. I wouldn't expect to see a riff between authors and fighters, but that's cool.
Are they the same mojo, though?
Yep, they are.
Okay.
Sinai Marge Percy, author of Woman on the Edge of Time.
It's interesting that you have her, because I was browsing Goodreads this morning, and I was like, I should look for footage of her and submit her to you. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Woman on the Edge of Time. Either that or just a catchy title.
I haven't read it, but I know she generally does fiction that has like feminist themes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think that one, Woman on the Edge of Time, might have some sci-fi in it or something. I remember hearing about it.
Did you, was there like some that she was similar to? Is that how you found her, or was this?
I think I found her a long time ago through a feminist talk on YouTube, and I can't remember which one it was, but they mentioned one of her works in the talk.
Gotcha. Go internet.
Nijai Thomas Piketty from the 21st century.
Quality advocate, capital. That sounds a little dry, but I looking at him and the Nijai Mojo, that I would not think of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell. Who knows? It may actually be a fiction novel. Doesn't sound like it though. Nige Irwin Shaw, playwright of Rich Man, Poor Man. Probably had to read that in school, but I forget what's it about. Did you ever read that?
No, the title rings a bell, but
Yeah, I think it's a classic.
okay.
I read a lot of classics growing in high school that I have no memory of. I'm sure it's rattling around in my psyche somewhere.
Yeah. Nige Lee Smith, author, Fair and Tender Ladies.
Yeah, she's one, when we get to the end, we're at the end, but we filled out this bubble a bit more. I'd like to kind of come back and review. I think she's an IG, but sometimes she minds a little bit of IG, but we don't have a lot of IG to cross-reference. We get a little more. I'd like to come back and look at her again.
Right. There is not a lot of IG women in the database, right? Like there's more men.
Definitely by a long shot.
Yeah.
The AdSense males and the Vi Alpha females are probably our lowest areas.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I wonder why that is.
Nijai Jill Soloway, author. As far as why that is, I think the AdSense males, the V's anyway, I think I may have just missed some in the music bubble, which is what I'm purifying now.
Right.
As far as the Vi Alpha ladies, that I'm not quite sure. Well, the Vi Z, I think, just aren't as prominent because of the kind of careers they do. Because on the Vi Z males we have are from sports and different things like that.
And like military stuff.
Military and also coaching and all those are going to be pretty male-dominated fields. But the Vi Z ladies, I'm hoping we'll get more in the authors. That'd be great.
Yeah. I would think there would be a fair amount of VIG female like journalists and stuff.
Yes, that's where we have most of them from. Journalism and also politics. It's male-dominated field, but the females we do have a lot of VIG and Xeni.
Nige Susan Sontag, author, The Volcano Lover.
Several different ways you take that title. It's probably what she intended. Nijai Cheryl Strayed. Here on the right, she reminds me a little bit of something. I think something got made into a movie by a Nijai novelist. It'll come to me. Maybe
her name rings a bell.
Susan Strayed. Yeah. I'll look at that real quick because I'm curious if that is that the one with Reese Witherspoon. No. All right. Let's think of something else then. There you go.
Nige Elizabeth Strout, Pulitzers for Fiction.
I was curious. You said you're reading 3 books at once.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that as far as like your reading time? Do you sit down? Like I guess how do you choose which one you're going to read when, and how much do you read?
I don't think there's like a hard and fast rule. It depends on which books I'm reading at the same time. Sometimes I will put one of them on hold just to finish another one and then go back to that one. Like one of the ones that I'm reading right now, The Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre, that one I tend to read in the evenings. I don't know why. It just that's kind of how it's worked out.
Interesting. Do you read them on one day and then another one another day, or early in the day and late in the day, or I was curious, do you ever just read part of one and then just stop for some reason and pick up on another one, like back to back?
I do that a lot. I stop randomly for whatever reason and pick up another one. I do that a lot. I get distracted easily, so so sometimes I stop them like intentionally because they're just boring, and there's a lot of books in the world and I want to read, the ones that I'm going to enjoy the most.
That makes sense.
So sometimes I actually stop halfway. I stopped halfway recently with one of the books that I was reading by Nina Berkut. I sent her to you, but you probably didn't have time to look at her. Yeah, so I stopped reading that one because, do you want me to tell you what Mojo I think she is? Because I watched her videos. Or do you want to not be influenced?
Well, we can take a look at her at the end here if we have some time.
Okay, sure. Sure. So I think she's Jaini. That's my suspicion. And the reason she stood out to me was because, or the reason I wanted to go and watch videos of her was because I read like on the back flap that she works in a museum, which struck me as very Vi. And her writing style is also very Vi. It's like very like this happened and then that happened and then that happened. Like it's very choppy in a Vi kind of way. And so I was thinking, is she Vaiji? Because she's also written poetry. And I was thinking, if this is a Vaiji poet, that's going to be like a first.
Yeah.
So I went and watched videos of her, and I suspect she's Jaini. Yeah. So anyway, so I stopped reading it just because the writing was choppy and like the story had potential, but the way it was executed or the way it was written just didn't do justice to it. So I was like, enough of this.
Enough of this.
Yeah.
How often would you say that you like permanently take a break from books? Like you like just don't bother finishing them?
I don't know if I have like a percentage or anything. I do it more now. I used to really want to finish every book that I started. Like I had that obsession, and I used to hate myself for stopping some books. And then I used to read this blog by this guy who mostly talked about like learning foreign languages, but he had this one post about reading books, and he said that it's actually stupid to, especially for nonfiction where it's not like a linear story. You don't have to read everything in order, and you don't have to read everything. Like the world isn't going to collapse if you just read one chapter or something. And I was like, oh, he has a point. Like that totally makes sense. Yeah, and he actually advocated stopping books if they're boring because there's so many of them, and you want to read the ones that are going to have the most value to you. And that just made so much sense to me that I haven't looked back since.
That's a good philosophy tip. Do you ever sometimes like start reading it and then you're like, I do want to kind of know what's going on, but I don't want to read all of it, and just sort of like jump through chapters and then get to the end and read?
I don't do that with fiction. It's not a bad idea. I just don't do it with fiction. I sometimes do it with nonfiction, like especially I'll look at the table of contents, and if there's a part that looks that like it's either irrelevant to me or boring or something I already know, I'll just skip that part sometimes. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
All right. Next one up. Sinai Rose Tremaine. Yeah, this pose she's doing here on the right, you see it quite common with the Zenai females in certain fields.
Resting their face on their hand.
Yeah, and letting their jai kind of like be there in like an open, vulnerable, obvious state. You don't see the Zenai dudes hitting this pose very often.
Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, where do you find authors to read and look at?
Well, myself, I haven't been able to do as much reading as I would like because of all the stuff I'm doing with the database. But when I am doing more reading, I tend to actually do what you were doing, but I didn't have a website for it. I would just kind of like look it up in Wikipedia or whatever, and oftentimes it would like say, oh, they're reminiscent of this genre or whatever. And I would kind of do my own informal version of that. But
right.
that website you're talking about actually sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's useful because the other reason I like it is because it helps me like keep track of what I read, because you don't always remember that like 10 years later that you read some book. So it helps out with the vibe of things a lot. So definitely.
And then also there was a time, like my memory's like bad. I have a lot of amnesia early in my life, but I know there was a time when kind of like you said, you were obsessed with like finishing books that you started. Mine was I wanted to feel like I had a understanding of the classics or whatever. So
right.
I went on a bunch of lists of like famous world books, famous ancient books, famous fiction, and I was like, okay, I need to read these because I mean, it'll somehow mean I know something about life, which isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of did that for a little while. Then after a while, I was like, okay, I don't really need to do this. Because like I would feel compelled sort of to like read it like you say, you felt compelled to finish it because you're a bad person if you didn't. I felt compelled to read it because it was on a list of great books. I felt like somehow I was missing out if I didn't read it. But some books that are considered great aren't great, or at least they're not great for you.
Right. Yeah, I think you have to, and sometimes also you're just not ready for a book at a certain point in your life. Like, not to go off on too much of a tangent,
That's
but I
fine.
tried reading Crime and Punishment when I was 17, and I don't think I was like in terms of life ready for it at the time. And then I reread it when I was like 23 or something, and then it made a lot more sense to me, and I enjoyed it a lot more when I was 23. So
Yeah, that makes total sense.
sometimes you just have to have certain life experiences or be in a certain state of mind or something.
Definitely. And on that, something that worked for me is that I know a lot of times people go the other direction, like books to movies, but
Right.
I actually went from movies to books a lot. I would, I started reading the book like Crime and Punishment. I would try to read it and it wouldn't grab me.
Mhm.
I guess it wasn't able to conjure enough a picture in my mind. So sometimes
Right.
I'd watch a movie and that would make it more interesting to me. And then I'd like want to reverse engineer it and I want to know the background behind it. And so I'd go and do it. I actually got really into mythology that way. As a kid, I got into mythology because of like, sounds ridiculous, but like Thor comic books and whatnot. I actually liked it. And then I was like, okay, but now people would say like, but that's not the actual mythology. You know what I mean? Like, I know,
Yeah.
but it got me excited about it. And that excitement helped fuel me to actually look
I
up.
think that excitement is important and underrated in reading in general. I think that's why books like Harry Potter have been so popular, because they're just fun to read.
Definitely. The excitement really is, it's critical because otherwise, not just the action of getting through it, but
Yeah.
retaining it.
Yeah.
You
And
retain
caring about what happens to the characters and all of that.
big time. Yeah, like, on that, like sometimes seeing a movie or something, I would have like people who are in the movie that I found them interesting, and like I like that helped me like really care what happened to the characters. And then when I'd read the book, I could bring that in and sort of layer that on top of the words. Although usually I have a pretty vivid imagination, but some books can be a bit dry.
Yeah.
All right, next up here.
Zenai Adriana Tigriani, author, Big Stone Gap.
I.G. Dave Trott, advertising expert and author. He looks pretty serious.
Yeah.
It's interesting, these Baiji advertising experts, you look at them, you wouldn't think like they would be the kind of people who would understand the deep wants and needs and desires of customers, but they do.
I think G is really like, it helps a lot in like marketing and advertising.
Yeah, definitely kind of spells and influence people.
Yeah. Nijai Gail Tsukiyama, author, The Summarized Garden. I've heard of her. I have one of her on my read list.
Is she on that for this book or another book?
I think it was another book, but I don't remember the title.
Gotcha. Naiji Susan Vreeland, author of Girl in the Hyacinth Blue.
Jinai Lena Waith, author.
Oh, and another thing, you were talking about the one book that you were having trouble with because of actually the physical format of it.
Yeah.
Small. Is there a format of book you prefer?
I guess not like large print or anything, but somewhat large soft cover, because then it's kind of like I can just flip through it like kind of easily. If it's hardcover, it's also heavier to carry around. But yeah, that one is just kind of it would be fine if the story was shorter, but because it's like 850 pages and it's like small and compact, it's
Right.
really, the format is really it's uncomfortable to hold. So
Makes sense. I find sometimes the formats change based on what mood I am. For example, like in comics,
hmm
um, sometimes they'll package them all like a series of them together to make like a graphic novel, and I actually like that. But other times, I actually prefer to have it broken up into the little skinny ones,
hmm
which makes no sense because it should be more convenient to have them all together like that. But I don't know why. I sort of like, maybe it's just that's what I'm used to. And then
I think there's a feeling when something is short, there's a feeling of accomplishment in finishing it, especially when you do it quickly. So I think that probably plays a role.
I think it does. And also perhaps a feeling of bountifulness. Like, I have all these comics with me and I'm going to go out to, a coffee shop or hang out, in the forest or whatever. And I have this little, like, bundle of goodies. A bundle of goodies seems a little different than all in one book.
Right.
Then also, sometimes the other direction where, like, I like what you're talking about a lot of times, like a good sized back for a lot of reading. But then other times I do like a hardback on certain things because it makes it feel special. I notice I tend to with like certain works I consider important. Like I don't know why, like Minamo Musashi's The Book of Five Rings, which is not even a very big book. So oftentimes in paperback, but I actually like the hardback version because I feel like I'm opening up a tomb of wisdom, a tome. And then my favorite books ever is the Time Life series on like the various mythologies, dragons, wizards, witches, and so forth. And they're like really big. They're like super tall and wide, which is a bit awkward. And normally I don't like that. It's a bit awkward, but for that I do. And also sometimes like books on like cosmos and things like that. I'm like, I'm learning about the beginnings of the universe. And it feels like, I don't know.
It feels epic.
Exactly. It feels epic. Get back on here.
Just out of curiosity, before we move on to the next one, do you know any Jinai authors who are white?
Interesting.
Yeah, because it seems like it's people of color often.
Yeah, it does seem like people of color. It's a very good point. I don't think I do.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye out for it, but I don't think I do. Very interesting. There's definitely a trend of that, not just in writing, but in other areas as well, where there are more G mojos prominent than, say, other ethnicities.
Is there also like more Xi Alpha then? Like partners and stuff?
Interesting enough, I mean, there is a normal inspirational magnetism thing, so there is that prevalence. But it must be noted that actually, I think the G alpha, particularly G Vi, really are kind of like lionized in certain, say, African American cultures, because you'll see the G Vi lady in particular paired up with almost everything. Nai Z, Nai G, Jinai.
Okay. She's like the Zenai kind of white culture in some sense.
Exactly. And, yeah, very, very fascinating.
I think Jennifer Lopez, if I'm not mistaken, I think she's G Vi, and I think her partner is Jai V.
Yeah, it is. But you'll see the G Vi lady paired up as far as the males, with a wide spectrum of them. I think more than anything else, the one I'm wondering might be somewhat similar to this, although we don't have enough data, is in the Asian cultures. The Jai V lady is really kind of held up as a ideal of what a woman's supposed to be. I imagine it's going to be something similar where there's probably a lot of people who pair up with the Jai V lady that aren't inspirational just because that's considered to be the ideal by a culture standard.
Interesting.
Alrighty. Nijai Sarah Waters.
Her name sounds familiar.
Waters. Face looks a little familiar, actually, which is unusual for authors. No. Sarah Waters. Try that. Sarah Waters. She's known for novels set in Victorian society and featuring lesbian protagonists.
Okay, I don't think I've read any of that.
That thing, right? You probably remember that if you had. Sounds intriguing, though.
Yeah. Nige Irvine Welsh, author, Train Spotting.
That's a good movie. You ever see the movie?
No, I haven't.
I didn't realize it was a book until later.
Mhm.
Nijai Connie Willis. One thing I was talking about, Bruno, we're trying to tell apart the Abijai and Nijai males in music, but
Right.
relates to all of the jazz gatherers, is there's a slightly more nervous, out of sorts quality that the Nijai have as compared to the Bijai.
Mm. Yeah, you've mentioned before something about like Nijai's nervous energy.
Yeah. Now, and on that, like I find, ironically, they seem a little less comfortable, like these camera shots, but I actually find that makes me feel more comfortable around them. The Vijay's a little more easy nature that way. I actually find a little more foreign to me.
Interesting. Zenai Jeanette Winterston, author.
Nijai, Patricia C. Reed, Young Adult Fantasy. I think this is one we put forward.
Yeah, this is one of my submissions. I haven't gone around to reading her stuff yet. It's on my to read list.
Is there one in particular that she's known for that you?
Yeah, there's like I think there's a series that she's known for, but I don't remember what it's called.
Gotcha. That's one. Naiji Sunil Yapa.
Do you know what his like cultural background is?
No, but I will find out real quick.
Okay.
He's Sri Lankan.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, the name sounded foreign, so.
That's R. We have a couple minutes here. We want to take a look at, was it Nina Burke something?
Burke, I'll type the name into the chat thing here.
Yeah, Burke.
There's not a ton of footage of her, but there's a couple of videos.
All right. Let's see. Here we go. Here's one.
I could spend days and weeks and months on just a line or a stanza, and when I transitioned to the novel form, I just wrote. The hard work came.
Okay, first impression is definitely subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Some natural frame and hooded
I
eyes.
work at the National Gallery of Canada, so that was
And values-based.
great in
So
that,
cheeks moving.
that my job inspired part of the novel and the setting of the novel and the artworks that I mentioned in the novel. I could walk in every day. And
She's doing a lot of head swaying.
And I just could wander through the
And
galleries.
they're deep too. She's far to the sides.
Mama is a colossal 30-foot tall bronze spider that's out on the plaza of the National Gallery. To Edith, this sculpture represents her own mother and her conflicted relationship with
I don't know if
her
she is a
mother.
Jaini, but I am sensing a lot of tower use. She has a heaviness in her voice cadence.
That was the first thing that stood out to me.
And yet, Edith's mother, Constance, is in a sense a predator toward Edith's sister Vivian because she forces her into these child pageants that Vivian doesn't want to be participating in. I myself have never competed in beauty pageants, but I grew up in the ballet world. You're on stage and you're constantly performing and competing. My parents never
heavy cadence.
pushed myself or my sister. They were not backstage parents at all, but I grew up a lot of girls being pushed. It was always backstage mothers. And I saw how that affected them.
Yeah, I think you may be right. I'll watch a little more here.
Sure.
I'd like to see her digits.
As a child, she sees an actual unicorn. She thinks she sees a unicorn when she's out on a hike.
She thinks, well, she thinks that seemed like a heavy Jai shrug. Play it back.
Yeah, I sent another video where it's like, it's back and forth, her reading some of her poetry and then talking for a few minutes, reading some poetry, talking. You might see her fingers there.
Cool. Is a link in the chat?
No, I think I sent it in an email.
Ah, gotcha.
If you look up her name in YouTube, there's only a few videos anyway, so you'll find it.
Okay, I think I see one here. Tree reading series featuring reader. It might be it.
I think that might be.
But yeah, this freeze frame here. You see here on one.
I actually don't see it. I just see you.
Oh, you don't see the YouTube?
No.
Oh. I thought watching together. Do you see the YouTube app on the side?
Yep, I do. I just clicked on it. Okay, now I see it.
Okay, cool. And see, you see we're at 154?
153.
Okay, but you see her in she's in a right side head tilt, eyes closed.
Her eyes are open, but she is tilting.
Okay, at 154, she actually closed them anyway. It looks pretty. That looked to me like Jai resonating there.
She thinks she sees a unicorn when she's out on a hike with her father.
Yeah, play back.
And she sees an actual unicorn. She thinks she sees a unicorn.
She said that is it 155. She thinks she's seeing
Yeah.
a unicorn.
So that's like a Jai move.
What's that?
That's like a Jai move.
Very much so. Yeah, it doesn't look like Zai to me.
And you said something about her head tilting and stuff, or head going back and forth.
Yeah,
Is
she
that also?
sways. Throughout this video, she sways it quite heavily to the sides, which is something you see more prevalent with towers. Other motives can do it, but it's
Right.
not as common and where it's comfortable. She's doing it a lot. She's doing it quite deeply to the sides and looks very comfortable. And the cadence,
Her body looks towers too.
it does. It has this general kind of at calm energy. Let me try this other one.
Sure.
Thank you, Deanna.
Is this one you're talking about?
Yeah, I think this is the one I was talking about.
Nice
Can
digits.
everyone hear me? Just let me know if I need to talk louder. And thank you to everyone with the tree reading series for inviting me here.
Yeah, inviting
it's a
me
real
here.
pleasure.
She has that shy
and
tremble in the voice.
It's a great honor to be reading with all of the poets who were fabulous. Though I was forced to wipe out the luxurious pillow talk, tolerating the cute unrest, freedom, magic, power.
I'm gonna go back to the beginning because they zoomed in here.
Sorry?
I'm gonna go back to the beginning because the rest of they're zoomed in. The beginning is when they had the shot. I can see her digits.
Can everyone hear me? Just let me know.
Try to get a freeze frame on the hands if I can.
Thank you, Dan.
Bam. That's what I wanted. That looks pretty Franzi. Are you seeing it at like 3 seconds?
Yeah, I see the still.
Yeah, it looks pretty. That loose where the palm and the pads of the fingers kind of rest gently, and that the way her wrist, the break in the wrist, looks very much like a tower. So yeah, I think we're looking at a Jaini here.
Yeah.
Nice, good call. Good call, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was just curious about her because her writing style was kind of Vi. She works in a museum, which strikes me as kind of Vi-oriented work.
Yeah.
And one of the characters in the story, the main character's sister, is like in beauty pageants, which struck me as like Vijay or like AdSense-ish.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was wondering, yeah, if there was a chance she's Vijay, or Vaji, sorry. But then I looked at the video of her, and she doesn't look like Vaji.
No, good call. You got it. Yay. All right.
I'm getting better at recognizing Jaime. You can often tell with the heaviness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything before we sign off?
I don't think so.
All right. Great session. And if any more authors to send my way, please do, and we'll get into them.
Sure.
Actually, next time I'll be able to get more into the samples you sent recently.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too.